Hi, this is Dr. Gary. Welcome to the Daily Tune-Up today. I want you to really kind of get an idea of what we're talking about this week as far as accepting our own internal dialogue versus what somebody else perceives us from hearing. And then also when it comes to our ambition, our way of moving through life. You know, all over the continental United States right now, we're just moving through so many changes where we've got so much stuff going on right now as we listen to the news. We got to be careful where we're getting the news and you know, that they factor of who's saying it, and kind of get some double verification that it could even be true. As I spoke on my program, Mind Talk, a couple of weeks ago, is the world falling apart? And what can we do about it? That's one of the specific things we talked about, is the news and how we hear the news and what we do about processing the news in our own mind. That also happens on a local basis, on an independent basis in ourself, and the way we hear news from friends or the way we communicate with people. One of the things we have to realize, everyone has their way of understanding things. And many times people have a fear factor that's maybe greater than yours, or they have an emotional factor that maybe isn't as stable as yours. And what I mean by that is they're a little more excitable than another person may be. So the way they interpret things is going to be more excitable than maybe you would. Or it might seem like they're overplaying it, or it might be they're over-exaggerating. And how many times we hear about, oh, they're just a drama king or queen. That's not necessarily true. People are people, and we're all different. There's 6.5 billion of us on the earth right now, and believe it or not, there's not two of us, so they're really the same, even though we'd like to think when we say something to someone, they understand us. So when we hear news, when we hear gossip, when we hear somebody talking about something, it doesn't mean we have to correct them if we don't understand it the way they said it. That's one of the big irritations of life, is when someone's always correcting something you're saying. What they have to realize is you're understanding it the way you understand it. And if they understand it differently, there's nothing they're going to do to be able to correct it to the way they understand it by just telling you that. So we have to be aware in our conversation that all of us communicate differently. We hear the news differently. We learn things differently. And we understand things differently. The big thing we have to realize today is what can we do about it? What can we do about the way we hear things? We have to understand that we hear them differently than everyone else, and they do the same. So when we talk about one news story, when we talk about one friend, when we talk about one thing going on, what's going to happen is, if someone doesn't understand it the way you do, they may want to correct it, or they may want to ask questions. Make sure you know where your sources are coming from and they're reliable, or just not say anything. So in our communication with people, it has to do with our success in business. It has to do with our success in life. It has to do with our success in relationships. And above all, it has to do with our success with ourselves and just living inside of our own head. And sometimes that's the biggest challenge of all. Until tomorrow, this is Dr. Gary, asking you to pay attention, check sources, and understand no one understands things the way you do. Bye-bye.